Hello, my name is Renee L. Rose. I'm the founder of Explore Art Talk. With Explore Art, our featured guests, we have meaningful conversations celebrating artistic and cultural diversity that makes our world extraordinary. So sit back, relax, and check out our content. Thank you for joining us today. So, how are you doing? Your background, is that your studio?
That's my house.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh my God, the prints. I'm looking at that print on the back wall. That is gorgeous.
Yeah, that is a result of 45 years of making prints. You basically get tired of using the original format matrix. So with this backlog of lithographs that I have, because of course years ago, editions weren't relegated to 10 or 15. We had to make 50 or 60 or 100.
Oh wow.
So printmakers, they collect a lot of paper. And
Oh,
so that being said, I decided to use the images that I created in these prints, more realistic prints, and create abstract work and then also three-dimensional work.
yeah, I'm really impressed. It kind of reminds me something like Salvador Dali would do.
You're talking about the print behind my head, the black and
Yeah,
white?
yeah. And some of your other um
Yeah, yeah.
to like
Well,
surrealism.
yeah, so basically, when I grew up, I was a I when I was 18, I became a professional printer, but also went to art school.
Oh,
And working with the artists of the time, that's how most people are influenced. They always see something that they're drawn to. And at the time, in the Boston area, and around the country, we had something called magic realism.
mm,
I mean, there's an infinite amount of titles to different art movements, but this was one that I saw recently described or explained. And it has to do with, realism, but sort of set up in a kind of conceptual way, morphed but I like the idea of using real and definable objects in my
yeah,
work.
yeah. So did you really practice drawing a long time? Because you're really good at it. Very
Uh,
deep.
it came natural, I have to say.
Wow.
Uh, I used to watch my father was a draftsman for an ironworks company and
Oh,
always had the pencil in hand. And I was always creative as a youngster and, like to make things. But drawing just became very natural to
oh,
me.
wow.
And of course, you're mimicking things. You see prints from other people, so you want to follow that example or in a sort of a competitive way. There's something to be said about competitiveness when you're creative, making art. You're always looking around to other things that you can make better, let's say, or make your own.
So why did you decide on with your drawings to do print and lithograms as opposed to doing like charcoal on canvas? Why
Yeah,
did you?
well, part of that was again when I was 18, I was working at a place, and I always felt that art wasn't uh, a legitimate lifestyle to pursue. Uh,
Right,
you have to make money, make a living.
right.
I was working someplace where these two gentlemen came in on Harley Davidson motorcycles, with the long hair and whatnot, and they went to New England Art School, and
Wow.
they made paintings, and I felt a connection between that world now that it wasn't something that was foreign or was something done as a hobby. And this particular person worked at a shop in Boston called Impressions Workshop. And Impressions Workshop was one of the many professional shops that sprung up in the 60s and 70s
Mm.
to make prints for artists who wanted to expand their portfolios and branch out into not necessarily a singular art piece, but many art pieces. And so I worked in a shop and learned to print by this gentleman, and he sort of encouraged me uh, and I think it's something to do with the fact that when I was 14, I was working in my father's ironworking shop, and the smell of the metal, let's say, and the
Mm.
metal presses that we're using. It's a mechanical process that you have to master. But it
Yes.
something I think goes way back uh, to the time I spent in the iron shop as a youth.
So, considering that we've moved such to a digital age, what do you think about printmaking as opposed to moving into digital age and AI in art?
Yeah. Well, uh, again, I'm open to all the new forms of expression. But as a printmaker, I go back to the idea that a print uh, is an original print based on the quality of the paper. The paper that you print on when you're making an original print has to be 100% rag, which means it's 100% cotton
Oh, wow.
because it will last 100 years.
Okay.
So the difference between these digital prints, which have to be printed on coated paper, and of course don't last. And the image is printed on the top. It doesn't get absorbed into the fibers of the paper. I mean, we
Hmm.
have some prints that go back 500, 600 years. It's amazing. But
That is amazing.
that wouldn't happen if they were done with digital paper. But in terms of the digital age and all this new technology that comes in, I refer to a German artist. His name is uh, Walt. Uh, wrote a treatise on uh, art in the mechanical age, and he spoke about photography
Mm,
when it came into fore as being sort of a landmark discovery that challenged the notion of what original art is. And you can apply that idea into the new age. At that time, it was photography. Now it's digital printing. And again, I don't prescribe to that method because to me it's not original in its
yeah,
in
I
in
understand.
its invention.
Hmm.
And it's interesting. For 6 years, I was secretary of the Boston Printmakers.
Oh,
And
wow.
we would conduct national exhibits all the time. And we're all inclusive. And so, when you have a piece of digital art, if it's done well and it's conceived in a good way, let's say an expressive way, executed properly, I mean, we accept those prints into the show. After the show is over, of course, people pack up, they get their frames, they have to, you know, come to the gallery, pick up their prints and whatnot. There was
Hmm.
one particular artist who had a digital print that he had exhibited. And
Mm.
we asked him how he wanted to return the print. And he says, "No, don't worry about it. I don't need that print because it's he basically in his response told us that it was worthless on its face
Oh,
because it was printed digitally, and he could print thousands of them.
yeah, they mean nothing.
So that's my argument against, let's say, using or making digital art. I mean, if that's your format and that's the images reproduce in that medium, that's all fine. But I like to stay more or less as a purist when I'm speaking about printmaking.
Yeah, I have a young guy that I just did a magazine on who's a Gen Z artist out of North Carolina. and he does prints and lithograms. He's in school, he's in college, and he is so fascinated by it. And I was so fascinated by him. So, and then you sent me stuff. I was like, oh, wow, because I think it's just amazing. Because it's not an easy form to do. You have to really practice and get skilled at it. You know, it takes some skill to do it. It takes some commitment to be able to do it.
No doubt about it. And I maintain that in this world that we live in this digital world,
Yeah.
it's art processes like that that allow people to feel connected. I mean, uh,
Yes.
to
Yeah.
make a print, you have to control the devices, and they're all mechanical. There's nothing
Yeah.
machined in that. It's all gears and pivots. And as you're turning the wheel and you watch the roller go over the print, I mean, there's so many um, seductive responses that are returned to you once you make a print that I think it has far-reaching implications in terms of educating somebody into the real world and having them understand that there's something other than the cell phone.
Yeah. Oh,
It,
yeah.
it morphs you into
Yes.
something mechanical that it's a process that you can watch from beginning to end. And there is an end. There's a
It
beginning,
has a
and
different
you
frequency.
move through the stages, and then there's an ending.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
we seem to be stuck in some kind of a netherworld right now that I think a lot of people are challenged by.
I think that's why a lot of people don't know who they are because they can't go back to the original roots. I mean, I feel good because I'm 65. I was just telling my girlfriend the other day, who's my age, and we grew up in an analog age before
Right,
computers. We were talking about how we remember when the TV would go off at about 12 o'clock and they would, be off all night and they show the flag. We went through that to original computers with punch cards, all the way to a digital age. I mean, we've lived in two different centuries, and it's such a rich, a rich contrast, like you're talking about, of understanding where we come from and how we got to this point.
right,
That history is just so phenomenal to me.
right. Well, luckily, you and I both knew what it was to be without that.
Yes.
Okay. Now, yesterday I had an issue with my internet. It was down for over a day and a half.
Hmm.
Now, even myself, as an old guy, can
Oh,
understand, how you feel when that happens. When you rely on all the news broadcasts and the computer to do your internet searches and businesses, the business I do from day to day. Without that, but I maintain it's the meltdown is going to come. Let's just hope not in our lifetime.
well, one
But
of
at
the
least
things,
we have experience to know how to withstand that
yes,
breakdown in communication
I read a
worldwide.
lot. I read a lot of hardcover books. And one of the reasons why I started my magazine is because now that so many newspapers have closed, there's no longer local newspapers. I live in Chicago. We used to have a local newspapers in each neighborhood. We have like 77 neighborhoods in Chicago. They don't have that anymore. You
That's
barely
true.
get any news. People don't read newspapers. It's really scary of how many stuff is being lost.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's unfortunate. Now you're from Chicago, so art and print, you probably remember that magazine
Mhm,
publication.
mhm, mhm.
And that's now defunct. But
Yeah,
it's a sad state of affairs. What you're doing is wonderful, and we need to support your endeavors to keep the process going.
yeah,
But it's interesting. No, just recently read in the newspaper that they're closing the fine arts department, the studio department at one of the Boston area colleges. I mean,
my
it's
girlfriend's been telling me that on the East Coast, that's been happening a lot.
yep, yep. It's too
That's
bad.
and a lot of I've noticed a lot of the art departments are downsizing. They're not offering as much expansive. I really think that's unfortunate. And in grammar schools, when I was in grammar school, art and music was taught. You had to take the basics. They don't even offer that. So it's like we're losing a sense of culture We don't, you know, I think that's important. It gives you compassion. It helps you understand the world. And you know, I'm left and right brain because I did a totally different career, but I'm an oil painter. I've always been in the arts. But I think that's important to us as the development of human beings. And
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
disappearing.
Absolutely. You see it now with yeah, I mean, the social aspect of it. I mean, you're in a workshop setting. You're working
Yeah.
with other people to make prints. Often, when we were making a print, we were one person was with a roller on one side of the press, the other person had a sponge and was sponging the stone to keep it wet as we were working. I
Oh,
mean, the
wow.
coffee time was the best time of the day. We'd sit around, schmooze, talk to each other. I mean, those are how you build, lasting
Relationships. Yes.
relationships.
Yes. And socialization. Yes. So how did you pick your subjects for your prints? Did you like do a model or a scale or draw something and then move to do it on a
Well,
print?
unless it's a historical uh, person or a subject, uh, I always like to use family members. I
Oh,
always like to use somebody that I know in my paintings. It's always a family member.
oh,
So I can point and say, yeah, no, I didn't steal that. That's somebody I know. I have a personal connection with. And so I take numerous photos. Luckily, I don't have any children, but luckily my brothers and sisters do.
okay.
And I use often them as subjects,
Yeah.
or my wife or whoever.
Oh, wow. Wow. So once you pick, okay, so when you create a print, you pick, you know, one of your family members, and you come up with the subject around that particular person? Or
Okay, so yeah, so my overall concept is when I'm making any kind of art, it has to be conceptually sound. There
okay.
has to be some meaning in it in the beginning. I'm just not painting objects. There has to have some kind of connection either with the objects or with the focus of the image or whatnot.
Okay.
Conceptually sound and well crafted is
Okay.
my modus operandi.
So you're trying to have a person that like if I'm coming to see your prints in the show, I can look at it and it's conveying a message to me.
Absolutely. It,
Everything's
it may
connected.
not be a personal particular message, but it may be a larger message.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, you just can't walk. It's not like multicolored, and you're looking at just a composition from a distance. I think you have to really read my images, read my prints, because there is a hidden meaning to all of them.
Yes. They're very intricate.
And then, of course, I've done a lot of things. I've done posters and a lot of other things, but
Oh.
I wanted to resurrect this because of the crazy uh,
Oh, wow.
world that we live in, and I'm
Oh, wow.
totally outraged by the actions of the government trying to usurp people and forcibly deport people. And this is a poster I made 15 years ago, and yet it's still a topic.
Yes. That's what
It's
I
a
love about
timely
artists.
subject. I mean,
Oh, wow, it is.
we need to reform the system. Reform it however we have to reform it to make it fair and equitable to most people, to everybody.
Yes, that's what I love about artists too. Artists can draw something or print something and put something out there, and it's like it gives you a long speech right there in the pit, right there tells you so much. It is
Exactly.
so relevant. You
Well,
know,
the
it's
idea is
well
that
said.
images images travel much faster than
Yeah,
words
they
alone.
do, and it's profound.
It
It
is.
really impacts a person. It
It
really
is.
tugs at your heart.
Yep.
Yeah. So, have you ever taught any like workshop classes?
Oh,
Or-
all the time. Presently, I'm working with the Boston Public Library, the
Oh,
so-called artist in residence. And, in the beginning, I was helping the curators sort of identify prints. We had two workshops in the fall, or one workshop actually, twice in the fall of last year. And we're set to do it again because they're mounting a show to commemorate the 250th
yes, yeah.
year of our independence.
Okay.
And So yeah, and then I've taught many places over the years, the Falk in Provincetown, and like I said, being part of the Boston Printmakers, I created a lot of exhibitions and taught a lot of workshops. But now I do have a day job as a builder. And what I do now is to support myself is I work in Boston's historic district. And what I do is I carve motifs out of on facades, on brownstone facades.
Wow.
So
You're
we have the
really
largest,
talented.
I'm sorry.
You are really talented.
Well, some might say that, but almost as a need to make a living because
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
much as I love my prints, I'm always continuing my printmaking. It wasn't providing the income I needed to make to do what I want to do.
Well, that's okay. I mean, like I did I had a totally different career, but when you have your passion, it's good to have a passion and to have something that you absolutely love. And that
Absolutely,
other stuff helps support you to be able to do that. So that makes
absolutely.
sense.
No, the starving artist never appealed to me. Never, no.
Me either. Me either. Uh,
Yeah,
I think it's going to be important. The reason why I was asking about you teaching, because since they're closing so many fine art departments in colleges, I think artists are going to go back to other artists teaching artists, apprenticeships, and having those type of art programs in private schools, because I don't think colleges are going to, there's not going to be many left that are going to be offering fine arts, I think, going forward.
well, unfortunately, I think you're right. But I always think and hope that whenever something closes, another one seems to spring up in its place.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and that's in Boston. We have several, young people who learn the art of lithography. They have started their own workshop.
Oh,
Slow,
that's what
but
I'm talking about.
yeah.
Yeah.
And cooperatives are big also because, as
Yeah.
hey, what I find is you may go to art school and then choose a different career. But that desire to make art, to make something just purely and solely your own, is it carries with you in life. And
Yeah.
after people have continued in their career and perhaps retired or still, they have that desire to go back to be making prints again. Again, in that workshop environment, the collaborative environment, they're meeting people, they're interacting, but they're also making very unique and personal artwork that no one else can make. It's probably
Yeah.
the only truly personal thing that a person can do is make
Yes.
art.
It's always an original you. It's unique. That's what I
Yeah,
love about art. I don't care
yeah,
what form you're doing, but most of the time, the classic mediums, it is an original. You of all the people in the world, that is you. You made that, and
exactly.
it's just so outstanding.
That's right.
George,
Name something else where you can have the personal connection. Certainly not in on the computer or on the phone.
no, no, that's why, to me, I don't care how we show art like online and people buy online. Art is still something that you have to experience in person. There's a whole different vibe. There's a whole different feeling that you get. I think still that we'll always have that form of it where you actually experience it live. It's a big difference.
Yeah, I think so.
Um, where do you do your printmaking? Do you have a workshop you work in?
Well, uh, basically what did is revive the printmaking studio at the Boston Public Library that was laid
Oh,
dormant for about
wow.
11 years. And I worked for a place in Boston called the Artists for Humanity.
Okay.
Basically, they call it the largest employer of youth in the city,
Oh,
where targeted youth or at-risk youth will come here after school and learn art and design projects.
okay.
And it's an amazing organization started 30 some odd years ago by a woman named Susan Rogerson. And it continues to this day. And of course, all the generous people who contribute to keeping the place alive. But anyway, I set up a print shop there, and they weren't using one press, so I took that press and gave it to the library. And I'm actually in the process right now of getting a litho press over there.
Wow.
But this will again, it's public institution. It's amazing.
I love it because you're going to introduce these, underserved artists to an original form, and they get to, have this. This is just, it's great.
Yeah, so hopefully the litho press will go up there soon,
Oh,
and we'll have start having classes there. But yeah, no, it's places like that and independent places that people have branched out into. We can't rely on the universities anymore. It's
no,
unfortunate
no.
that it's become just a money-making proposition. It's not right. And then it takes a lot to keep these places up. You got to buy acids, chemicals, got to keep the presses running. So I can imagine it's different than just having a classroom.
Oh, yeah.
It's taxing on the institution.
Yeah, I had a artist that's a well-known sculptor around the world. He taught it. He lives in London. He's been a professor for years, but he said he felt that the schools that they used to have, where they were private schools and they had all different type of artists people would teach, that he felt that they were more meaningful because the colleges started getting to everything was about the student being a client, and the money got all into it. He says that he's hoping that everything will go back to that, where artists were taught, or like apprenticeships or in programs that you were talking about, because they're taught much more and they learn much more and they're focused on the art, not just, you're a client, it's all about the money.
Well, it's unfortunately that's what's happening. But here and there, you find people who give money for endowments and whatnot to
Yeah,
do that exactly, and that generates a lot of interest. I mean,
yeah,
over time, systematically, I can understand how it would be very difficult to continue a class, especially if one year there's no enrollments, and then it's. But these endowments that you see that spring up. That bring professionals in to make prints. I mean, I've seen a lot of that happen, and it's not
wow,
only is it beneficial to the person who's doing the exit, because there's usually money involved that pay them,
yeah.
much more than they would in a university setting. And then there's just how much there's advertising and interest because it becomes more of an individual act as opposed to something that is long lasting and can falter in different at different times.
It's just, and I'm so happy to hear because I'm glad younger people are getting exposed to this. That's the part that's making me so
It's all
happy.
about that to
That's
expose
what they're
them and then have them carry this on
exactly.
in good and bad times.
Because I think a lot of them are stuck on this digital, making
Oh,
everything digital, all this designing, and not understanding how people originally designed things. And to have that out there, I think they need that balance. They need to know and understand and really have to draw, because I'm meeting some artists that never have, used any type of medium, don't even know how to draw. You do everything on a computer. You need to have that foundation. It's nice if you augment it and you play with those tools, but no, you need to have some original talent
absolutely.
and develop that
Now, you
talent.
can't you can't use all of the design techniques available to you on the computer because then, well, first of all, it's not unique anymore. Even though you put two things together that have never been put together before, it's still not not unique.
Yeah,
Somebody else can reproduce that, and but at the same time, for design images and things like that, I hire people to morph images and do things for advertising, book
yeah,
book covers, things like that.
yeah,
But in terms of making art, and there are even a lot of processes within those uh, primary, engraving, relief, lithography, and silkscreen. In between that, there are all these other little things that have sprung up
yeah,
uh, that advertise under the guise of being in that medium, but are not necessarily there.
yeah,
Let's say there's instead of aluminum plates, which are your standard go-to when you're making lithography, or stones, limestones.
Yeah. That's
Limestone,
what the guy I work, the young artist Jaden, he's working with limestone lithographing. I was like, oh my God.
beautiful.
Yes,
Because
I could not believe it.
Yeah, because go back to the original process of lithography, which occurred in 1790. Those stones were used for carving and engraving different things. And this Solenfender, Alois, discovered it just perchance. By drawing on the stone, he was able to isolate his drawing against that white background. By putting gum arabic on the rest, he isolated all the white areas and was able to, with a grease pencil now, build up the image. And this is the first time you went from engraving, which is very hard lined. If you
Yeah,
had to achieve any depth, you had to use cross hatching, just with fine lines. Same thing with engraving. But now lithography allowed you to just freely use that grease pencil and create halftones, beautiful depth of field with halftones. And that's where lithography came in and led the charge until about the 20s. And then they invented offset lithography, which isn't the same, but understanding that printmaking also, it's a reverse method.
okay.
When you create something on a matrix, whether it be on a copper plate or on a limestone or a metal plate, your image ultimately is reversed.
Of that. Yeah. That's
So
just amazing to me right
that
there.
that's
I'm just
amazing in of itself, because
like, God.
sometimes we look in the mirror and our faces are just not quite, the way we remember them.
Yes, our
Because
line right. Yes.
when you reverse an image, you can the gestalt can fall apart. And that's why mirrors are often used in workshops, because if you
Oh,
if you're creating a drawing, you hold the drawing up to the mirror, and then you can see how maybe your next
progress.
line will go.
That part right there is just absolutely amazing what you guys could do. I would be my stuff would be so backwards and fickle. I mean, just doing that in itself,
Yeah.
it takes some talent.
Well, the first mistake you make is if you're using text, obviously. And then and I see that all the time. Oops, by the way, you're supposed to put your name in the other way because it's reversed image. Oh, I forgot. Text and things like that. But no, that's why you have to plan the image out. A good image is well planned.
Yeah.
I don't mean plan it out until you just kill the creativity, but just plan it out in a way that you understand the composition holds tight, and that you're going to have the product uh, in reverse. You're going to
Yes.
like what you see in reverse.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Bob, thank you so much. It's been so fascinating. I couldn't wait to interview you because when I saw, I said, "Oh man, this guy is you're like a legend."
I appreciate that. Thank
You
you.